The results in the video are frightening coincidences. They're, especially when you consider you're dealing with a text written over many, many years, a massive ancient text that is made up of 1.2 million letters, each letter being a number or having a number value. These things are impossible to achieve on purpose. So we either have to call them astonishing coincidences or proof that, or evidence of the Torah being exactly what it says it is, or the Hebrew Bible, because this is what we're using here. This is the text of the Ten Commandments from Exodus 20. You shall not bow down to them or serve them, for I, your God, Hashem, am an impassioned or jealous God, visiting the guilt of the parents upon the children, upon the third and fourth generation of those who reject me, but showing kindness to the 1,000th generation of those who love me and keep my commandments. So we'll take this verse 6 here, and punch it in. You see that the verse has the value 1824. 1824 is in red here, every single instance of it in the entire text. And you can find 1824 exactly 613 times. This is a verse about the commandments. How many commandments are there in the Torah? 613. There's 613 mitzvot, or 613 commandments, 248 positive commandments, and 365 negative. So think about that. This verse about the commandments in the Ten Commandments has a value that is found in the entire text exactly 613 times, and there are 613 commandments in the text. This is not the only example of the number of times something shows up. That number has information in it, which shouldn't be the case. This would be impossible for humans to achieve on purpose. So this is also from the Ten Commandments. I am your God. I, Hashem, am your God who brought you out of the land of Egypt, the house of bondage. I take this verse, and we'll find the value of it. Is the value 2495, which is found 490 times in the entire Hebrew Bible. 490 is the value of the word tamim, which means perfect. So this verse about God from the Ten Commandments has a value that is found 490 times. 490 is the value of the word perfect. So I thought, since there are things going on with the Ten Commandments, that covenant, let's go to the very first covenant, the covenant with Noah, the Noahide laws. This is right after the flood, Genesis 9, the covenant made with Noah and the entire world, actually, that he will never again destroy the world with a flood. And then God further said, "This is the sign that I set for the covenant between me and you and every living creature with you for all ages to come." He's saying this to Noah. So I take that verse, copy it, look for the value. Here's the value. That value, the value of this verse, 5,360, is found in the entire Hebrew Bible 58 times. 58 is the value of the name Noah, as you see here. Interesting. So then we go to the next verse. I have set my bow in the clouds, and it shall serve as a sign of the covenant between me and the earth. So immediately I notice there's some words here that are associated with Cain, but let's check this out. We'll copy this and we punch it in. This has the value 4,154, which is found exactly 160 times in the entire Hebrew Bible. 160 is the value of the name Cain. Interesting. So let's see if there is some connection to Cain. So you click on the verse. Let's check the commentary. And in fact, in the very first thing, you can see here the name Cain. And then we'll check out some of these words. So he has a connection, obviously, to this sign or mark. Remember the mark of Cain or the sign of Cain? He's also connected to this word bow, as we'll see. So here in Genesis 4, and the Lord made for Cain a sign that he wouldn't be killed by anyone who would find him. You can see here the sign for Cain many, many times. And then with the bow, it says here in Psalms, the wicked have drawn out the sword and have bent their bow. This is Cain. So here he is associated with the bow. And again, the way he dies is by a bow and arrow. It says here, now Lamech was very old and unable to see, and Tubal-Cain, a mere child. And seeing something moving out in the distance, Tubal-Cain directed his father's bow and made him shoot at what he took for a wild animal. So he thought it was a wild animal, but it was Cain. Lamech did accordingly discharge his weapon and killed Cain with his arrows. So he died by this bow. It's interesting too, because we have this in Genesis 4. This is Lamech saying to his wives, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, like God said, then for Lamech it should be 77-fold. Which is interesting, because if I go again back to the Noahide covenant, verse 16, when the bow is in the clouds, I will see it and remember the everlasting covenant between God and all living creatures, all flesh that is on earth. Take this verse, check it out. This value exists 77 times, which is exactly what Lamech said. If Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then for Lamech it should be 77-fold, which is 77 times. All right, so let's check this out again for Lamech. And then we have this next verse. I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark with your sons and your wife and your sons' wives. This is from Genesis 6 now. This is the very first time we hear of this covenant. I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall enter the ark. So let's take the value of this verse now. We said there's a connection to Lamech and Lamech. So this verse has the value 4,947, which exists in the entire Hebrew Bible 90 times. 90 is the value of the name Lamech or Lamech, as you see here. Interesting how there's this connection between the two of them in the text, but also numerically in the math. And of course, here's some just connections with Cain and Noah throughout the sources. Of course, The sister of Tubal-Cain was Naamah, the wife of Noah. But it says both Cain and Noah were kind of tillers of the soil. Noah, after getting off the ark, planted a vineyard, as you remember. And they show up together in sources many times. I encourage you to check them out for yourself. And this is just to show that Lamech is the the father of Noah, who named him. And then you have Lamech, who says, if Cain shall be avenged sevenfold, then for himself it should be 77-fold, because he killed Cain. And we should also remember who started this whole thing. There's a connection there as well. If you go to Genesis 6:4, the Nephilim are what started the whole thing and made God decide to destroy the world. And who are the Nephilim? I have a video on this. It shows clearly that the Nephilim are the Cainites. So it shows in Gematria as well. If you check out the Nephilim, it has the value 215, which is the same value as the Cainites. They are the Cainites, the Cainite people. You can see here 215 as well. So here's a bonus result. We said earlier there were 613 commandments, 248 positive, 365 negative. Let's go to 1 Chronicles 16 or 15 here, actually. Be ever mindful of his covenant, the promise he gave for 1,000 generations. I'll show how 613, 365, and 248 are encoded in these two verses in like the most impossible way. So this covenant, the promise he gave for 1,000 generations that he made with Abraham and swore to Isaac. So let's take this verse. First of all, Abraham is your 248. Abraham, his name has the value 248. This is well known. You can check it out for yourself if you like. Now let's take the verse itself as we have it here. We said that Abraham was the 248 in the verse. It has the value 2,798, which exists in the entire book 365 times. So 248 and 365 are encoded in this verse. But you go to the very next verse. So the oath that he made with, the promise he made with Abraham, he swore to Isaac, and confirmed in a decree for Jacob, for Israel as an eternal covenant. Let's take this verse now. It has the value 1,824, which exists in the text 613 times. So this verse about the eternal covenant, which is 613 laws, exists 613 times in the text. These results are at least highly coincidental and highly improbable, highly unlikely, perhaps signs that its origin is not quite of this world, certainly a higher intelligence than what we're used to.